Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Na'aseh v'natzliach. I'd like to welcome you to the Lighthouse project as we start a brand new series called Did You Know? Last week was the first installment. This week is a very, very interesting subject matter. We're going to speak about God's hybrid creations. Before we start tonight's class, I'd like to give an honorable mention to our nightly co-sponsors, Anonymous, doing this in thanks to Gedalia for his clarity and kindness, and wishing him and his family continued success and happiness, and for that tzlacha, health, mazah, and simcha of the children and grandchildren of Fraji ben Rebecca Rivka and Georgette Shusha Batmuni. Chazaku Baruch Anonymous. Amen. Plus, Mata Rivka Bat Victoria, doing this in honor of her beloved father's second year yurtzeit, Ata Uben Ben Shlomo Zichrono Livracha. Chazak u'baruch to Anonymous and Mata for supporting Torah, and for the Refuah Shelema of Menachem Mendel Ben Sabatia and Devorah Figa Bat Rezel. Our class also has its own sponsors. We have the Dornbush family doing this in honor of their grandfather that passed away, and Ezrat Hashem also this is the Hatzlacha of the Dornbush family. Joseph got married this weekend, and Baruch Hashem, he's right now a married man. Hatzlacha to him, his new wife. Ezrat Hashem, then 9 months from now they invite us to a Brit Milah. And also to our righteous woman from the East Coast, Esther Bouton, doing this in honor of her 3 boys. Be'ezrat Hashem, that entire family have bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yedehem, have a huge spiritual elevation, a lot of simcha, and that we have besorot tovot ba'atid. All right, let's get started.
Also for a refuah for Rabbi Bouton.
A refuah shelema for Rabbi Bouton ben Yonah, and for Simcha bat Shula.
Amen.
And for the Hatzlacha of Inbal bat Jacqueline, bat Chen bat Jacqueline, and Rina bat Jacqueline. And for the Hatzlacha of my parents. And for Chol Am Yisrael.
Amen.
All right. Okay. Did you know that on this planet there are many hybrid creatures? If we start from the beginning, or from the bottom, from the basics, you should know there are 4 levels to life, or to life forms. In Hebrew, they're called datzchama. That's domem, tzomeach, chai, medaber, which stands for domem is for the inanimate, like rocks, which are a living thing, by the way. Tzomeach, which is vegetation, like flowers, plants, trees. Chai, that's a living thing, like an animal. And the top is the medaber, the talking human. We're at the top of the food chain, as they say. However, in between each one of these stages, there's an in-between life form. A hybrid, a creature that is the combination of 2 different levels. And tonight, I'm going to take a learning that I've compiled for almost, let's just say for several years. I'm very interested in these things. And I see videos, and I listen to classes, and I read books. And tonight I'm going to give you a compilation of all the different things that I've come across. Most of it has come as an inspiration from a class that I took from Rav Yitzchak Cohen, a very big rabbi in Israel. It has hundreds of classes out there on YouTube. Some of them have really, really interesting subject matter, and he inspired me to give over this class. As a matter of fact, I even listened to a couple of his classes as a refresher course, so I'm doing this in his zchut as well. Now, some things tonight might sound like fantasy and very far-fetched from the norm. But know that everything that I'm going to share with you tonight is all Torah-based. Everything has a source in our Torah, in our Talmud, in Chazal, in Midrashim. This is all real, backed up by Torah giants, by huge rabbis that have written on it, seen it, testified, and put their stamp on it that it's true. Now, a person with strong emunah clearly will know that anything is possible in God's world. A person who's weak in emunah will have a lot of doubt and a lot of questions.
So we better not have doubt.
I'm just saying it's a good barometer. You could check yourself right now. How much do you believe that anything is possible in God's world? And if I'll give you a teaser to a possibly faraway class, one day I'll share with you 7 worlds and 7 heavens. The best of Hollywood has yet to touch it. And they're good. Lately, with all their special effects, they're almost getting there. But I can tell you that their muse to all their imagination is all Torah-based. Half of the stories that are out there are all drawn from the Talmud, from the Bible. Yep. So tonight we will answer questions like, do mermaids exist? What are sirens? Is there such a thing as living plants? Past what we know of photosynthesis and the green plant that when you talk to it, it comes alive. Are there plants that are living?
They are living. All plants.
Past the level that we know.
Oh, you mean like to talk to you or something?
Yeah.
Like little shabafars.
Is there such a thing as
We would slow a little bit on the
Amazon.
is there such a thing as a werewolf?
How about Bigfoot? You forgot him.
I didn't find any source for him in
That's
the.
pretty good. So that's pretty good though. Bigfoot.
I have yet to find a source for Bigfoot. What is the beracha that you make when you see a monkey and an elephant?
There's a bracha.
Yes. And why do we make that beracha?
You know how they train elephants?
When they tie him down, you're talking about?
Yeah.
When they're young. And eventually, at the end of the class, we'll find out who is the ultimate hybrid, or what is the ultimate hybrid in God's creation. Let's begin. Domem is a rock. Tzomeach is a plant. In between domem and tzomeach, there is a hybrid. And that hybrid in Hebrew is called an almog. In English, it's a coral. In the ocean, we have a coral reef. What is a coral? It's a living rock. Corals are marine invertebrates. Invertebrates? Yes. However, unlike rocks...
That we're destroying, by the way.
Say it again?
We're destroying.
Yes, especially here in
Water. It's very bad.
especially here in Key West. They're really trying to protect it. So they're telling us the corals, unlike rocks, they're alive. And unlike plants, corals do not make their own food. And a coral is actually a polyp that can be no bigger than a pinhead, that is just connected one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, and that's how we get the coral reef or the coral. However, it is a hybrid in God's world. While we're in the ocean, there's some other hybrids that we can visit. The Talmud speaks of the mermaid and calls it the Bat Yam, the daughter of the sea. And it speaks there in detail about the fact that it can only procreate with a human being. It does have half a body that's a fish, which is the bottom half, and the top body of a human. They've been around for a very, very long time. It also speaks of a siren. And a siren has a similar form to the body. However, it's been known to have a beautiful voice. that it perches itself up upon a rock somewhere in the middle of the ocean or by the beach, and it sings, and this singing is so unique that it lures people to it in order to hear where this beautiful voice is coming from. And as the boat's near, the siren lets out a huge shriek that kills people. And then this siren actually goes onto the boat and begins to eat the people. And this is all in the Talmud, in the Gemara.
Well, it's also another mythology.
Others mythology, but again, we're sourcing the Torah. But it's out there, and as a matter of fact, recently there have been some images of mermaids, of mermaid carcasses. Still, it doesn't look that believable what I saw, but there was one special that they had, that the Navy had an actual incident where a submarine was just doing its typical run, typical exercise, and then the sonar picked up this super loud noise, created a lot of sound waves on their screen, cracked a lot of glass screens, and a few people actually died on the submarine. Later, this was about 10 or 15 years ago, off the coast of Hawaii, I believe.
Where's the source of that?
National Geographic. Speaking about they did a special about unique things that happen in the Navy, in the Army, and they sourced one of that. However, I don't want to go too much into that. Most of it is going to be Torah based, and anything that I spoke about, which is about the siren and the bat yam, comes from the Talmud. Now, the next example is probably going to be the bulk of this lesson. It's the hybrid creature that's in between a plant and a chai, and an animal. And some say it's even between possibly a plant and a human being. There is a creature called Adne Hasadeh, or Anshe Hasadeh, meaning the people of the field, or the masters of the field, if you translate it from Hebrew to English. Anshe, like an ish. In English, you can look them up under mandrake. And
Mandrake?
yes, and this is very interesting. First, it's a plant. The top of it is leaves. It has a fruit. This particular plant has a segula to get pregnant to get women pregnant.
Isn't that the ones that that Rachel gave to me?
Yes, we know it also as the dudaim. And this whole segula of the woman eating the dudaim or drinking from the water of dudaim, you should know, does not work for a barren woman. This is only a woman who's been able to give birth before and now is having some complications, and this particular fruit or concoction of that fruit allows it to align the system back up to be able to bear children again. But a barren woman can eat or drink as many dudaim as she wants, but she won't be able to get pregnant, because getting pregnant can only come through God's blessing and prayer. It's also very, very strong. Eating too much of it will cause you to hallucinate. It is used as an anesthetic for medical purposes. As a matter of fact, a piece of the root being given to a patient to chew before undergoing the operation was a common thing before modern medicine. And underneath the ground, if you look at the plant, underneath the ground, the roots have a shape of a human. 2 arms and 2 legs. If you pull it out, it would look like that the roots look like a person, and the head is the head of a plant. However, the root that you can see actually also is a person, or can become a person. And it's called Anshe HaSadeh. And when a person pulls out this plant, two things happen. The person that pulls out the plant dies instantly. And when the person tries to pull this plant, the plant or this mandrake can protect himself by letting out a loud shriek that can also kill.
Let's say it has atropine. Atropine can stop the heart. So
Yes.
It makes sense why the plant could be poisonous.
If you eat too much of it, it can kill as
Not
well.
only that, when you pull it, you can get the roots, you can get the mist, you can get potentially some.
Interesting.
Like gas, like you're poisoned.
So they say that the only way
It has atropine in it.
the only way to kill this mandrake is that you either shoot it from very far away with a rope and some sort of arrow or a knife and be able to kill it when you're not close to it, or when you pull it from the ground with something other than you, other than yourself. Now, this Anshe HaSadeh goes even deeper. Once it's pulled out and killed, their bones have been used for Avodah Zarah. As a matter of fact, if you remember in Sefer Bereshit, when Lavan was chasing Yitzchak and Leah, and Rachel and Leah, and chasing Yaakov, and he was telling her, "Who took my teraphim? Who took my special idolatry?" Which, what was it? It was a bunch of bones that if you throw it on the floor in a certain way, it gives you an answer, or if you put it in your mouth, you're able to speak in tongues or be able to say certain things. And Lavan couldn't live without it, and he thought that his daughter stole it from him. So this whole teraphim that's in the Chumash is actually from Anshe HaSadeh. And just when you thought that this mandrake, this plant, or the story cannot get any weirder, this is the famous plant from the story of Reuven and Leah and Rachel, when they had the whole story with the Dudaim, and also what Shlomo HaMelech in Shir HaShirim talks about when he says the Dudaim. It's this. The pshat, we've always thought it was a fruit or a plant. I gave you a visual of what it's like. Get ready for the story. Let's go to Sefer Bereshit. When Reuven brings the Dudaim to his mother after a long day in the field, Rachel makes a deal with her that she'll trade her night of being with Yaakov for an exchange, a barter for the Dudaim that her son just brought her. That's the pshat of the story. But here's the real story. Reuven actually goes to the field, and as he's out there in the field, he has his donkey. And in order for his donkey not to run away from him, he ties him up. He goes and he does whatever it is that he does on the field, whether it's to hunt or whether it's to walk. The Midrash doesn't say what he was doing there, but when he got back, he finds that his donkey is dead. Getting closer, he realized that the reason why the donkey is dead is because he was tied up to a mandrake. And when the donkey decided to pull away, he pulled away the plant, which causes death. Seeing that the donkey is dead, but he does have a bush of dudaim in front of him, he picks up the dudaim and he brings it to his mother. These are rare, hard to find. Now, if we go to Perek Lamed Pasuk Yud Dalet. Let's see if we can find it. Look what it says over there. So he goes to this field, he finds the dudaim, vayave otam el Leah, and he brings him to Leah, imo, his mother. Vatomer Rachel Leah, tni li midudae benech. Rachel is asking her, give me those dudaim. Vatomer la, hameat kechatech et ishi, velakacht gam et dudae beni. It's not enough that you took my husband. You also want the dudaim from my son. Right here, I'd like to stop, and this is a subject for a different class. Don't you remember, Leah, that actually your sister's the one that gave you her husband? You forgot that whole switcheroo in the wedding? How dare you say that? But there's a big, beautiful dash on that, not for this class. Vatomer Rachel, lechen ishkav imach halayla tachat dudai ben. She said, okay, you know what? I'll give you my chance to be with Yaakov tonight for those dudaim. Baruch atah Adonai. By the way, Rashi says that because she gave up the night to be with a tzaddik, that is the reason why she lost her chance to be buried at Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Remember, she's married on the side of the road because of this incident. ויבוא יעקב מן השדה, את דואי בנך. ויבוא יעקב מן השדה בערב תצא לה לקראתו ותאמר לה תבוא כי שכר שכרתי בדודאי בני וישכב מה בלילה הוא. So he spends the night with Leah, and she gets pregnant. And who is the son? What is the name of the son that came out from that particular night? Issachar, the Torah Jew, the yeshiva boy, the tzaddik, the yeshiva bachor. That's what came out of that night. So we have to say one thing. We know that there's a klal. We know that the dudaim can only work for someone who already gave birth. Rachel Imenu is barren. Why would she take those? Why would she make that trade? She knows that the only thing that can help her is God and prayer. Why would she trade it? Why would she trade a night with Yaakov for dudaim? She's a righteous woman. She's a tzaddiket. She knows this. But Rachel knew. She knew those dudaim are not going to help. And she didn't do it because she wanted to get pregnant. Rachel Imenu, don't forget, is Rachel Imenu. She's the matriarch. She knew in the Ruach HaKodesh that night, if Leah was going to be with Yaakov, Issachar was going to come to the world. The Torah Jew, the learner, is going to come into this world. And she wasn't thinking about herself. She was saying, Am Yisrael needs Issachar. Am Yisrael needs that type of Jew, needs that type of tribe. And that's why she did it.
But why was she punished then? Why was she punished by not being buried there and being buried outside the road?
Several reasons. For this story, it's because she gave up her chance to be with a tzaddik. That's the pshat. You want to go furthermore? It has to do with the future, Bet HaMikdash, that the people will walk by her, that she'll have the merit to cry at the end of days to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to say, on my credit, on my zechut, you saved my children. There's more to it, but for this story alone, the pshat that they gave us is that she gave up the night with a tzaddik.
For the reason that you mentioned.
Yes. Yes, for that reason. Now,
well, Lot and his daughters?
Yes.
I heard a similar explanation
Yes.
why they got him drunk.
Because they were under the impression that the entire world is gone. And they're saying that the whole world depends on them two and their father.
Yeah.
That's why that's why the names is Moav. What's Moav? Me'av, from the father, is my son. And the other one is Ammon. What's Ammon? Ammon, it's my nation. Ammon, my nation. What's her nation? Her father. Me'av, Me'avi. It's a whole story, but because of that, there's Mashiach. It's a deep story. It's like you could go, and then the punchline is like one amazing thing that has to do with the Mashiach.
The worst things come the most pure things.
Because you have to trick the Yetzer Hara to get him to that. We had to get to that point.
That's what I heard.
Yes.
A few shuvim before.
Yeah.
It's almost like
That
that's polarity.
explanation. I said,
Also with Ruth. How did Ruth come into us? It was a soul that was covered with... They did not want to release it. The whole story of Bilam that's coming up in a few parashiyot from now, it's him fighting not to release the soul of Ruth. The whole battle over there was for one soul. For one soul. Forget all the cursing and all that Balak and Bilam had all this going on. That's again, pshat. Behind the scenes is something else. Similarly to right now, we see that Rachel did it in order, pshat, to get the dudaim. Behind the scenes, the sod, she did it because she wanted the Torah Jew to come into this world. If you recall, Yaakov Avinu gave a blessing to all his children. What was its blessing of Yisachar? Yisachar Hamor Garem. Now, having learned this story, what does it mean? Yisachar, the donkey caused it. What does it mean? Yisachar, if it wasn't for that Hamor that pulled out that plant and brought to Reuven, we wouldn't be here. Yisachar Hamor Garem, the donkey caused you to be here. Now, in Shir HaShirim, let's see if we can pull it up over here, they mention Dudaim again. What is the reference? Because we say it every week. What does it mean? We always think it's like some sort of berry fruit. But there's a different way to understand it. Now that we have all the background to it, we can actually go and say Shir HaShirim on the 7th chapter, on Pasuk, on the 11th Pasuk, it says, Hadudaim natnu reach v'al petachenu kol megadim. It says the fruits of the dudaim give off a good smell. V'al petachenu kol megadim. In our doorsteps are all this high level quality, high level fruits. Chadashim gam yeshanim. Old and new. Dodi tzafanti lach. My beloved, I am watching over them for you. Very cryptic pasuk. What does it mean? That the dudaim gave off a good scent, and in our front doors we have all these different types of high quality fruits, old fruit, new fruit, and my beloved, I saved them all for you. So they say that when Mashiach comes, he's going to be able to decipher who's a tzaddik and who's a rasha and who's a wicked man by his scent. By scent. He'll be able to smell a tzaddik. So when it says over here, Hadudaim natnu reach, who came from the story of Dudaim? The Torah learner. So when the Torah learner comes, what kind of a smell is he going to give off? So they say, Hadudaim natnu reach. Look at the Torah learner. What a scent. Al petachin kol megadim. All these different type of high quality fruits. Look at the smell of this one and the smell of that one. Chadashim gam yeshanim, the old and the new, the youngsters and the older. Dodid Safantiach, I've been saving them for you all these years. Imagine, since the story of Issachar, thousands and thousands and thousands of years later, the Mashiach comes and he's smelling the offspring he smells the result of the Dudaim. That's the reference that we have in Shir HaShirim for it. Completely different, now that you've learned it this way.
Do the Dudaim exist today?
Yes.
I'm just wondering how it impregnates somebody, like the seed. I guess the seed is like a human seed that helps impregnate the person. I don't know, it's just very interesting.
So, a friend of mine, I'll tell you a little bit of what. So, dudaim nowadays, do they exist? The answer is yes, very, very rare, and typically we don't grow it. It's not something that you'll find everywhere. It's very hard to find. In some specialty shops, they claim to have it, and they it may be in Hialeah, yeah. However, I can tell you that the rabbi himself, before he gave his class, it took him about a year, close to a year, before he was able to give over the class, because he says, "I will not be able to give over this entire lesson if I don't find out for myself." And he went and he searched and he looked, and eventually, throughout the process, within that year's time, he came across it.
Where did you find it?
In Israel. And the rabbi had someone that was a good, righteous Jew that was growing them. And it wasn't that whole mandrake of the story of the Tanakh. It was just a plant. And the root of it is a very potent root. And what they would do is they would take that root and they would put it in water for a very short period of time. And then that water would be given over to a woman that needs help to get pregnant. And they would drink a little bit of it, with brachot and with kavanot, and it would work. And I want you to know that one of my best friends had a beautiful baby boy, and then they had a very hard time for 4 years. And it was very...
First child or second?
The first child was a boy. And then for several years, everyone around them is knocking out the second, the third, or the fourth, and they're feeling stuck, and became like a tsar for them a little bit. And they got, somehow Hashem made it this way that they were able to get a hold of a guy in Israel that was able to have it. And wouldn't you know it, almost 9 months or about 10 months to the day after she drank from this particular water, she had a baby girl. So, and this is a personal story. This is not like something that I read. This is my good friend of mine. Now, the dudaim also are very, very strong. People that don't want to take generic medicine will still take homeopathic medicine, you would call it. And what they do is they do take a little bit of a stronger concentrate of the root and that water. And it has the power to knock out a person for a week. For a week.
In other words, it's a painkiller.
It's a very, very strong painkiller. And
mandrake's a narcotic.
that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the mandrake.
Oh, I thought you were talking about dudaim.
Dudaim are the mandrake.
Mandrake has hallucinogens.
Yes.
LSD.
Yes.
Not exactly.
No, it's stronger. This is way stronger. Now,
You just heard about mushrooms. Mushrooms actually are very good for hiker.
is that the shit for a different class? When we
There's
talk,
different kinds of
The
mushrooms,
psyllium actually, the theory that the ingestation of mushrooms has actually developed the human brain.
what's the bracha on mushrooms?
It's the monkey mushroom brain theory.
Really?
Big scientists. I don't know if it's related.
Is it maybe that's also the
What's-
the monkey and the elephant?
What's the bracha on a mushroom?
Apes over that ate a lot of mushrooms.
Isn't Priya
Because
the
mushrooms
Really?
they know are living mushrooms actually improve.
Isn't that
It
Priya
has
the
to be
monkey?
Adama.
It's not
What do
adama.
you mean, you have to have a special bracha for
Why?
mushrooms?
gonna
Yeah,
be-
it's
It's
fruit.
not an egg.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's a plant. It's not a fruit.
It's not. It's not. It's shakol.
Mushrooms
Because there's no
actually-
roots in the ground. It grows above the
It's
ground.
actually not even a plant. It's a fungus.
A fungus. That's right.
So it's totally not even a plant.
So the bracha, the correct bracha on it is shakol. Now, the
Devil's apple.
is
That's what they call it. In other words, right? I was wondering. I didn't heard. I know I heard about that. You're talking about the devil's apple. That's what you're talking about.
is that what it is?
Which I went to school bus rehearsal for 1 year. I'll never forget. That's like 25 years ago. I had a friend. She was kind of like a
Wicca.
She was a Wicca. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
You know that my
I'll
friend
just
was in
say she was a
Wickenburg.
friend of mine.
No,
And let me tell you, she was into that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of their.
I got into natural herbs and stuff because I like it.
Let's get back to my
Yeah.
Right. It's called
Isn't it interesting? Show it around. Maybe they can take a look. There's other images.
That's a picture. I know that's. But there's a real picture of it.
But there's some ancient pictures that you could see, things from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, documenting
It's
it.
a big ginger
Yeah.
They don't look like a human being, trust me. Matter of fact, you wouldn't want to hang around with a human being who looked like that.
Well,
You see that, well, they could be like the shape of water.
let's move on. So there's one more thing, another side story since we're on Bereshit, that speaks about Esav. They said that Esav, he would always come back from the Sadeh. They said that Esav was the only one that was able to capture these Anshe Sadeh, Adnei Sadeh, without being killed. How did he do that? What was his secret? Well, we have to go back all the way to Genesis, to Bereshit. Bereshit, when Adam Arishon was kicked out of, after he ate from the apple, God, and he realized that he was naked, God created this special clothing for him, a special jacket, made from or. And this jacket had a smell of Gan Eden on it. When Adam Arishon left Gan Eden, this particular jacket jumped. It went from Noach. By the way, how did all the animals come to Noach? Right before he put on this jacket and all the animals came to him.
Wow.
Later on, Nimrod took it. Nimrod and Esav had a fight. And Esav told him, you know what, without this jacket, you're nothing. And Nimrod was so arrogant. He said, oh yeah, let me show you. He takes off the jacket. Esav won him and took the jacket from him. Esav, why was he always Nasadeh? Why was he such a good hunter? Because he'd put on the jacket and the animals would just come to him. So similarly, when it was Adnei Sadeh, when Esav was there, he would come and they would just come to him and sit right by his feet. Because the power of that jacket. Now, since we're on Sefer Bereshit and speaking of the tribes, here's an interesting one for you. Did you know that one of the tribes, one of the original tribes, was a werewolf? Which one is it?
Which one?
When you say one of the tribes, one of the 12 sons?
Yes.
Lobo. His name is Lobo. Right?
Which one?
His name is like Lobo.
So when Yaakov was at his deathbed and he was dispensing out all these personal berachot to each one, custom made according to exactly what their character is, in Perek Memtet, on the 27th pasuk, he gets to Binyamin. And what does he say to Binyamin? Binyamin ze'ev yitrof baboker yochal ad vela'erev yichalek shalal. It says Binyamin, let me read it in English. Benjamin is a predatory wolf. In the morning he will devour prey, and in the evening he will distribute spoils. Benjamin is a predatory wolf. So what's the background story to this? When I first heard this, I was like, wait. First of all, werewolves are real? Yes, in God's great world, there is such a thing. The fact that Binyamin, one of the tribes, is a werewolf, how could it be? Well, the story goes like this. A werewolf, the only thing that changes him back from a wolf is human blood.
No, the moon.
In this particular story, it's the human blood. Seeing this for several times, Yaakov saw that his son Binyamin is in danger. And he was able to keep Binyamin at bay when he was next to him. Whenever Yaakov was not next to Binyamin, he would be able to almost stray or get into this situation where he turns into a werewolf and he needs to feed and come back. So if you recall the story of Yosef, when the brothers came back and forth, when it came to Binyamin, what does Yaakov say? No, why? Ulai kreason. Maybe there'll be a tragedy. What's the tragedy? The tragedy is not that Binyamin might get captured or incarcerated in Egypt. He wasn't worried about that. These were 12 superheroes. They could run faster, swim faster, stronger. Forget, that's another class, the 12 tribes, the original 12 superheroes. We're talking about that he knew that when he's not next to him, there might be an ason. And that's why he didn't want Binyamin to go with him. As a matter of fact, the bracha, I think later on Moshe Rabbeinu talks about the blessing that ben ketafav, he says that the blessing that between his shoulders, the blessing will rest. And we learn it that it's something to do with Yerushalayim and Bet HaMikdash, but they tell us that the deeper secret is that the ben ketafav, the reason they mention the shoulders, is because that's where those legs come out from.
Because the Argentinian Jews believe the seventh son's a werewolf, right? I knew some Argentinian Jews.
I didn't hear that, but it goes along with this story.
The godmother adopts him or something. The seventh son could be a werewolf. It's a Jewish Argentine.
Yeah? Chidush. Now, Imam Loez also, when he's, if you want to read the Midrashim, something that's accessible without having to dig too far, in Sefer Bereshit, Imam Loez goes into the whole story of what happens during that time that they traveled. So now you see that we were able to find a hybrid between a plant and an animal, or even a plant and a human being. Masechet Berachot speaks of Dora Pelaga. Dora Pelaga was the generation that wanted to build the Tower of Babylon and go up to the Shamayim and fight God. And they tell us that Hashem changed their languages, that's where the 70 language started. This guy would ask for a brick, the other person would think that he's cursing him, and they would start to fight, and over there they'd rather lose a person than lose a brick, once they got to a certain level. So there was a lot of tension in the Tower of Babel. And there was such reshaim, they were so wicked, that Kadosh Baruch Hu changed them from human beings into 3 different animals. He changed them into elephants, monkeys, and owls. Today, he mentioned how do you train an elephant earlier in the class. Elephants are known today to understand 70 languages.
Dog understand language, 70 languages.
Well, particularly, again, the next week's lesson is the dog.
Well, if you ever have a dog, you ever talk to your dog in another language?
Yes.
Into your language. This guy in my building is Russian. He talks to the dog in Russian. My dog doesn't listen to Russian. My dog listens to English because I turn it on English.
No, they're saying here they can stand 70 languages.
But some dogs are bilingual.
They are. They could be. They could be.
From
Did-
personal.
Personal.
Yes, my grandmother used to talk to the dog in Yiddish, and we used to talk to the dog in Spanish.
Yeah, my grandma talked to
and
her
she
cat
would,
in Yiddish.
and she would do exactly what my grandmother would tell her.
Yeah,
It
Amazing.
was amazing.
I've seen it.
Yeah, see it too.
So since God changed that generation to elephants and monkeys, we have a beracha. If you ever go to the zoo and you see an elephant or you see a monkey, the beracha is Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam HaMeshane Et HaBeriyot, that changes his creations. It's a real beracha. HaMeshane Et HaBeriyot.
But not, the prayer is not for an owl, just
Yeah.
monkeys and elephants.
Yes.
So the monkey changes into an elephant?
No.
They got changed into the monkeys and to the elephants.
Who? Beggar Bean's family?
No,
No.
the people that were fighting.
The people that
Yeah.
decided to
The
go.
Erev Rav you're talking about?
No.
I'm confused.
During the Tower of Babylon with the 70 languages, those people that tried to build a tower and fight God in the heavens, Kivyachol, their punishment was that Hashem changed them into the form of elephants and monkeys. And that's why today we have a bracha. an actual bracha. You open up the berachot book that tells you how to say borei pri ha'etz and what the blessing that you say on lightning, and when you see a rainbow or when you see royalty. One of the berachot is hameshane et haberiyot. And the source for that is from here. And in Masechet Brachot, it also goes down the line of why we have certain blessings and what their sources is for it. So over there you'll find the source for that. Now, actually it's also brought in Masechet Sanhedrin. They have it over there. So here we have Achai and Medaber. We also have, I didn't go do too much research on this one, but we've seen talking birds, right?
Well, sure, they can imitate. They have linguistics.
Yeah, it's a medaber. It's a medaber. So now we get to the last stage, which is the human. The human being is the top. It's an intelligent being. It's smarter. It has the permission from God to take advantage of the entire world, the earth, the sea, the animal kingdom. Everything is under us to enjoy.
Did we do the mermaid?
Yeah, we did the mermaid. We get to this part of the human and the medaber, and we say, what's the next level up between a human being? Next level up, no, it's God. Between the human beings, the medaber, and God, what is the hybrid?
Angels. No? Malachim?
I thought that too. The rabbis tell us that the hybrid creature or the hybrid creation between the human being and God is the Jew. Is the Jew.
Wow.
How unique and special are we? They say the Hebrews, the Hebes, the Heb, stands for highly elevated beings or hybrid elevated beings. But yeah, the Hebes.
I have a messianic complex. I was wondering about that.
So you see that the Jew is something very unique. So let's talk about that a little bit. What is unique about the Jew? What's the difference? What's the difference between a regular goy and a Jew? We both have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. We all have the same body parts.
Our soul.
Even they also have a soul. What's the difference? You're touching it. You're getting close. We have a Jewish soul. What is the difference between a Jewish soul and a goyish soul?
A lot of nervousness.
A Jewish soul always wants to help.
A lot of complaints.
Well, let's get to
The spark of God. That's the Jewish soul.
They also have a spark of God.
Honest.
All human beings have a spark of God. We have a different spark of God. They have the nefesh behemit. It's like more of like an animalistic soul. We have the nefesh elokit, which has 3 and actually 5 parts. And this part I'll explain. We have naran, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Those are 3. Imagine the soul is a whole, but within that whole, it's cut up into 5 parts. The ones that we're with all the time are the first 3. They're called naran, which stands for nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which, by the way, is part of these neshamot come into us during the week. On Wednesday, we get the nefesh. On Thursday, we get part of the ruach. On Friday, we get the neshama. And on Shabbat, we get the other 2 pieces. On Friday night, we get another piece. And on Shabbat and Musaf, we get another piece, 5 pieces. And then beyond that, there's another chaya. That's something else. But just for what we're talking right now, just on this beginning stage of understanding the Jewish soul. These 3 parts, naran, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, each one of those has 6 parts. And each part of that is necessary in order for us to have a Jewish soul. Now, if you take 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, what do we wear? Chai. When do we become Chai? When all those parts are in place, we become Chai. Why are we so connected to this Chai? It's not just the Israelis love it to wear it on their gold chest with the open chest and their hair sticking out.
Okay, now, where's the reference to? You said it to it. The reference to the 3 and then the 6.
5.
5.
No.
It's 5.
5.
No,
Where's
I'm
that
talking about
reference?
the reference of the 6.
In between.
Nefesh has 6 compartments. Ruach.
In each of them, there's 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where do you find that?
I'll give you after the class. I'll give you some sources.
Yeah. Sources.
Yeah. And then we have the additional pieces of the soul that we get on Shabbat. And later on, when we get to that Ma'aveh Esim, when we move on to the next world, we can even get to the part of Chaya. That's the ultimate. Right. So we have an extra spark, or several other sparks in us that make us unique. And you can see that the difference in the way that the world is built, there's Kodesh and there's Chol. And each one has a different set of rules. The Chol acts a certain way, behaves a certain way, lives a certain way, and is manufactured a certain way. And the Kodesh part of the world is also working on different parts, different standards, different rules. We are the Kodesh part. And that Kodesh part has a lot of things that are connected to the Kedusha. Where does the original Kedusha come from? God. And that's why we are the hybrid creation of the world between regular human beings and the next stage, which is Hashem. We're the in-between. Because we have the power to create. We have the power to create all through our words, all through our actions, all through our Torah. And that's what sometimes people don't understand. The power that's instilled in a Jew. The power that you have. It's not just a kippah and chillin' on Shabbat. You're bigger than that. You're stronger than that. You have way more power than that. You're a superhero if you know how to activate it.
Beautiful.
In this world, there's more than meets the eye. There's more than we know. Like I mentioned earlier, there's 7 worlds, there's 7 heavens, there's the deep sea that the rabbis tell us, whatever is up here is down there and more. Imagine.
Well, the world is covered by water.
There are worlds over there. There are creations over there that are identical to what we have up here, but in a sea life form and more. There's space.
Dimension, string theory.
What about space? Do UFOs exist? Are there aliens? That's for another class.
Maybe they should have the video, the interdimensional. You just took them and put them in the cloud and sent them somewhere.
God's wondrous world is a masterpiece. God's wondrous world is a masterpiece. And when you start to look deeply into creation, and you look at God's creations, you begin to discover the greatness of God. Sometimes you can get closer to Hashem, not just through Parashat HaShavua, and not through a good prayer, but rather looking at His creations. Ma rabu ma'asecha Hashem. What a chokhmah. It's unbelievable. I constantly try to stay in the moment, and as I'm walking in the street, to appreciate a palm tree or the insect that's walking by me. Don't take it for granted. This is intense technology. But when you think about it, Hashem, as you know, people that don't have emunah get real foggy when we talk about this. Why? Because you need to prove it to me, and I better be able to find it on Google. And little by little, we see that they're able to mimic things that weren't possible before. They're able to create clouds now. Right? What else are they able to do?
AI.
Artificial intelligence.
AI,
which we're able to right now take a look at so many different things in creation, and we can see that we were able to learn from it and create it anew. But what's the one thing that we need to remember every single day? What does Hashem always want us to remember? Yetziat Mitzrayim. What is the biggest miracle of Yetziat Mitzrayim? Splitting of the sea. They have yet to duplicate it. Hashem's world is great and it's wondrous. If you just stop for one moment to think, what am I saying? When you say Kiddush, Zecher le-sheshet yemei ma'aseh bereshit. Think about it. The Kiddush is not just let's get through the words and drink the grape juice. Think about it. It's to remember the 6 days of creation. When you're putting on tefillin, remember because of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the splitting of the sea. And if you just think about that, you can understand how great God is and how beautiful His world is and how we know very little. And the more we discover it, we discover that this divine intelligence that's out there, this divine spirit of Hashem, we don't even know what it is. Our minds are too small to comprehend the greatness of Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem, that one day we'll be able to see the wondrous creatures of God out in the open, and that B'ezrat Hashem we all become that hybrid creature that Hashem wants us to be, highly elevated beings. Hashem varech otchem v'sameach otchem.